Welcome back. I'm Roy with Rugged Badger Racing. Today we have a fun video because we are going racing, but we're not taking the car this time. We are arrive and driving. Should be a fun experience. We are heading to Watkins Glen for one of the premier ChampCar races of the season, and we're going to be racing with Rockwell Autosports in their Porsche Boxsters. I am super excited. Let's get started. All right, we're here. We made it to Watkins Glen. It is the morning of the test day. We are going to be looking for Rockwell Autosports. Let's try to find where they're at and kick off this day. All right, so we got the car tech. Now, there are 3 cars running with this group this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in the slowest car. So 2 of them are going to be running RE71 RS tires. We're going to be in one running Kumos, and I've been told that the Kumos are about 1.2 seconds a lap slower. So we'll see. Nonetheless, we should still be competitive in the car. It is my first time racing with this group, although I think I'm quick. I get it. They don't necessarily know how I can perform in the car and what group to put me in, so they start first-timers out on the slower car. I'm also paying a little bit less. I didn't know that either because I'm not paying the extra amount for those tires. But we'll dive into the test day here and see how it does. Now, racing with this team, there's a lot of things I want to test out this weekend. So the first thing I want to test out is my assumptions about the Boxster's performance. So I believe that because of the ABS and the way the car is set up, you're able to brake deeper and actually trail brake a lot more than you can get away with in the Miata, which results in later braking, and we can actually get some time there. Now, through the corner should be about the same, maybe a little bit slower, but we're gonna have a lot more power off the corner and a lot higher speed overall. That's gonna be easier to pass on the straights, which should result in a faster time than what the Miata could do here. So we'll test and we'll validate whether or not that's actually true. We'll see. Now, the big advantage of this is fuel. We can go 2 hours on fuel in the Boxster. Now, this is a double 7-hour race, so it doesn't matter as much in this particular race, but that's a huge advantage in all of the even numbered hours races. So that's a given. I know that's there. So the question is pace. Something else that I want to test out is, how does this team perform? I want to see how a professional team is run, how they operate in the pits, how they set up. So far, it seems to be pretty well organized, and they're running like clockwork. I want to see if they really hold up to the hype, and if their consistency and performance is related to something that they're doing, at least at the track. I can see what's happening here. Now, I can't see how they prep the car beforehand, but I can look at it and give me some indicators. So hopefully I'll get some valuable information here and test out these assumptions about the Boxster platform and the team itself.
But just enjoy, be heads up. You probably already heard a lot of guys are not paying attention, so just enjoy, soak it in.
Wrapping up the test day here. So I got maybe 7 laps. Actually not a lot. It was a pretty short test day. I didn't get much time in the car. There were a lot of black flags. So is the car easy to drive? I really struggled. I had a hard time finding a good balance with the car and figuring out how to, I guess, find the rhythm. It really didn't feel like the suspension was set up properly. Now, in the second session, somebody called in, one of the other drivers mentioned a vibration, and then when I came in on my second one, I noticed it too, and it was kind of weird. They checked, and we actually had a loose control arm bolt, and that loose control arm bolt, they tightened it. I got out for basically an outlap and then coming in, and the car handled completely differently. It did what I wanted it to do. It wasn't slow to react, and I think it might have solved that drivability problem I was running into overall. So is the car easy to drive? The answer is I have no idea, but I think it is, and I think it's fixed. The initial impression was definitely not the case, and all of the other drivers in the car, it was their first time driving the Boxster with this team, so nobody could really tell whether or not that was normal. Hopefully we got that fixed, and that was the source of the issue. Now, as far as the team's concerned, wow, I don't have to lift a finger. Now, I know it's arrive and drive, but these guys really got it down pat. The crew really knows what they're doing. Everybody dives in to handle it. They want to really make it a good experience. And everybody that I'm racing with, it's their first time with the team. We all showed up early. We're all willing to lend a hand. The other teams, the guys, showed up late. They know their place, right? They know that they're there to drive. For everybody else, I think we're all still expecting to work. So that's a big change for us. But I got to say, it's nice. It's nice to have the catered meals and not have to do any work. And to trust that they got it handled, and they're very professional. So we think we have a rough ballpark on what the driver lineup and things like that are going to be tomorrow. But we'll cut to tomorrow and see how it goes in the race. It is race day. We are finally here. We have a driver's meeting in a couple minutes. They're getting the number 41 car ready. In addition to the other cars, these cars are going to be on the R70 or the RE71 RSs. We're going to be on the Kumos, and we have a nice set of sticker tires. So depending on how the driver meeting goes, when they do the poll to find out where we are from a grid position perspective, we'll figure out who's going to be driving first. But hopefully we have a great day. All right, we are cars to grid. It is Saturday at Watkins Glen Racing with the Rockwell Autosports development group. We got a couple of these Porsches here. I'm going to be third stint in number 41. Check that out on the live stream. I'll try to get a link posted shortly. Have a huge field today. We're going to be starting near the front, I think somewhere around 14th place. We'll see what we can do. Is a big field. All right, looks like we're heading into the pit window here, and I'm probably going to get rain towards the end of my stint. Maybe, we'll see how it goes, but we're not sitting too great right now. Hopefully we can put down some good laps and work our way up the field. just got done with a short stint. We fueled under yellow. Next, we're going to try to do a quick driver change under yellow, and we'll see how that goes to finish out here. It is greasy and it is hot, but it was consistent, and that Boxster, yeah, it's generally easy to drive, but I'd say a little disappointed in the brakes. They're a little soft right when you start to push on them. All right, I might be going back in the car here. We got 45 minutes of racing left. We're debating whether or not we're going to have a red flag due to light. This is what we're looking at right here. The track just went back yellow. It's been under purple 35 for a while, so it looks like they're going to start racing. We'll see how much rain we end up getting if I get back in the car or not. All right, so day one's done. So you can see outside, it is raining. There's lightning in the area, so they called the race. So that's that. But we ended up getting 5th place overall, which I'm pretty happy with. There's like 85 cars, so 5th place is not bad. Heading to impound now. Let's see all the cars. Jerry Inger, how are you feeling, bud?
Cooked.
Yeah?
No cool suit the whole time.
Yeah, I think mine wasn't working either. How do you feel? 5th place overall, man.
Really? All
Yeah.
right, not bad.
There we go.
It was just getting interesting though. Why did we stop?
Yeah, right?
I was excited. I was like, all right, here comes the rain, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, what is this double yellow shit? I'm like, oh man.
Well, good job, man. Congrats.
I didn't go that fast. But
All right, it is Sunday, day 2, getting the car prepped here. So yesterday we had a really good finish. I honestly didn't feel like we drove that well, but the car is just so consistent. It's so good in traffic. We ended up taking a 5th overall. Hopefully we can improve on that today, because that's my first time in a Boxster, first time for most of the team actually. I think everybody except for one driver, somebody's first time at the track. So I think all of us should be faster. We moved the lineup around a little bit. So we got Jerry in first, who's pretty good in traffic. I'll be in second. We'll see what we get up to. We are starting near the end of the grid, but hopefully we can make up those spots pretty quick. All right, everybody is to grid. We have a huge field. We're starting today in the back of the pack. Let's see if we can make up some ground. Sounds like we got a red flag condition. Track stopped right now. I guess it's a wall impact at turn 6, so everybody stopped. Alright, so really good first stint, and then I was in the car second stint, did really well. We worked our way up to second place, kind of on an interesting strategy. We did do a driver-only change that might come back to bite us, but probably what's going to bite us even more, when coming in I had an unsafe pit entry. I was hearing a couple different calls on the radio. I didn't remember the first call whether or not I was supposed to come in at the last minute. I kind of went sideways on my way into the pits. They didn't like that, so they did give us a drive-through penalty. That ended up costing us a little over a minute, I think maybe 2 minutes, which is quite a bit. That's almost a lap. So, you know, that's really unfortunate, but we'll see if we can make that back up with the yellows. We dropped down to the 30s. This field is really deep here, so we'll see if we're able to make up that ground. The good news is Nathan's in the car, and he's putting down some pretty strong laps right now, so hopefully we can catch up. All right, I'm ready to get geared up for my next stint here. Next yellow car's coming in, so we're doing okay. We're working our way up into the low teens, you know, closer to 10th place. I think if we can put, you know, really good pit stop under yellow, and if we could finish out strong here, we might have a shot to work our way up. Some breakages happen, maybe we'll get a top 5, we'll see. All right, and that is Checkers. So just got out of the car running the last stint. Man, that was wild. Trying to catch for a position. We end up finishing 7th, which I think is good, especially considering you know, we got a penalty. We also didn't get luck to turn our way on at least one of the yellows that we wanted. But overall, I think it's a good finish. As for the team had a car on the podium both days, so that's super cool. And then we had a car on impound the first day. You know, we got a 5th and a 7th. I think that's great, especially for a team that's totally new to the car, and then one of the drivers is totally new to the track. So I think that's a great way to finish. So one of the best parts of renting, it is 4:46 so 46 minutes after checker. I am dressed, I am changed, my luggage is in the car, and I don't have to do anything. I can leave if I want to. Very different from when you're running your own team. There's so much loading up, getting things prepared. This is easy. I like it. All right, I made it back in the garage here. Now, I had a few assumptions coming in. Let me talk a little bit about that. I'll caveat this with saying, when I talk about the Boxster, I'm going to talk about this relative to my experience, largely based on the Miata platform. I have driven a lot of Miatas, a lot of different types of Miatas, a lot of different motor swaps, and I have raced against the Boxsters a lot in Miatas. So first, let's start with those Boxster assumptions coming in. So I thought it would be great under braking, very easy to drive. Obviously, it had the power coming off the corners. Pretty much every single assumption about the car held true with one caveat. So one caveat and one surprise. So one caveat is the stability under braking. The car has a lot of stability, and it's very easy to brake that car at 95%. The last 5% is very tricky. Now, pedal pressure wise, you actually put a ton of pedal pressure in to get to the 95%, and then you basically need to double it to get to the other 5. Or it's definitely not as linear in the Miata, where in the Miata I feel like it's a very close line between locking the tires up and full threshold braking. In the Boxster, you go hard and then you go really, really hard to actually hit ABS, where the actual stopping performance is very minimal in that area. However, when that happens, the rear of the car becomes unsettled. Maybe this is something the Porsche engineers actually put in place on purpose. I don't know. Now, that's the one caveat. Other than that, the car was really stable. It was really consistent, super easy to drive, not nearly as twitchy as the Miata. And I think under braking, it was a lot more forgiving versus with the Miata, where you might have inconsistencies and things like that. In the Boxster, I mean, the ABS is there to help you. We don't have that, at least in the NA platforms. I believe it is available 94 plus, but with the ECUs and things like that, we just have no way of really controlling that because we don't run the factory ECUs. Now, one surprise with the Boxster, and I think my biggest surprise is what that the total platform is really capable of, and the result on track as far as how are you actually going to finish the race. And what surprised me was how much better the Boxster seemed to be in traffic versus my experience with the Miata. Now with the Miata, you really don't have the power on the straights to keep up, I'll just say an example, with the E30s or the E36s. So if you're going to pass an E30 or E36, generally speaking, if they're a top team, you got to be a hero. You got to come in, you're going to dive bomb them, you're going to be really hard on the brakes in a really short period of time, and you got to be really careful not to blow your line, because you either run into the car, you're going to flat spot a tire, or you're going to kill your momentum and immediately get passed again. In the Boxster, that really wasn't true. So first off, you gain those couple extra car lengths out of the last corner that allow you to be much better positioned for braking and out braking into the next corner. When you're driving into the corner, you can trail brake, and that makes it much easier to reposition and pick a different line or bail out of a situation. Where in the Miata, that's a little bit trickier. You had way more stability in the corner, and the ultimate cornering pace, although less than that of the Miata, was still pretty good. And then you could put the power down at the end of the corner, and then do it again for the next corner. And when I looked at my times, really, really consistent laps and a lot of traffic. I think we had an 85 car field, and generally speaking in traffic, I'd lose maybe half a second. Now in the Miata, I think, you know, those laps I'd end up losing maybe a second and a half ultimately. And I'd really have to go back to the data. But that's one thing that, at least first impressions, getting back after driving the car, it really seems to be a great platform for traffic. Now, the other big difference between what the Miata can do and what the Boxster can do, it's probably a toss-up for ultimate time. I think it'd be really tires dependent. And I think, at least for me, I could probably wheel the Miata better than the Boxster. After more experience with the Boxster, we'll see. But I think I can set a better ultimate time in the Miata. But the Boxster can go 2 hours on fuel. We actually went, I think, full green at Watkins Glen. You know, maybe you're 2 hours, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 15 minutes with a stock tank. That's not even the fuel cell. So that's a big difference from what we can get out of this car, where I think we had to really stretch to get to an hour and 40, hour 35, somewhere in that territory. And that's with the 1.8 liter swap. With the Ecotec, I don't know if we're hitting an hour and a half. And that makes a really big difference on strategy. When you count a green pit stop, it's something like 2 seconds a lap difference. Now, granted, they are 7-hour races, but you really need those yellows to fall your way. And even at hour 30 long stints, you still need an extra stop. I think you got to run about hour 35, hour 37, somewhere in that territory to actually, you know, be able to perform a 7-hour race without an extra pit stop. So that's generally my experience about the platform. Next, I'll talk about the team. So the other thing I wanted to learn about was the team. So Rockwell Autosports development. Now I had rented with other teams before, budget teams, high prep teams, teams with paid mechanics as well. And this weekend had a very different vibe to it. And I was really trying to put my finger on what the difference was, because these other teams, I could definitely show up and be arrive and drive if I wanted to. But what I really think I landed on was with these other teams, when I arrived and drove and then that's it, there's things I could have done to help out that team and push that team forward. And obviously I stepped in and helped out, whether that's strategy or helping with pit stops or helping work on the car or prep the car. Really, there's areas you can do to help out that team to drive them forward, even though it's an arrive and drive type experience. Now with Rockwell, that was different. I really felt like if I was helping on the car or helping with strategy, I was getting in the way, because they have every single aspect down pat and they are so well staffed. It's a really big crew and everybody knows exactly what they're doing. They know the platforms really well, and they've all been there before. They've seen it. They've seen pretty much everything, and they really understand the cars and how to win races. So for me, it was really just my responsibility to basically just show up on time and drive. That's all I really needed to do, and I was really struggling that, to be honest. And again, I think these other teams, that's definitely something you could do. But if you are an experienced driver, you've run a team or you've wrenched on cars, you know you can help out and you can add value. I really don't think that's the case in Rockwell. They really had every aspect of that covered. I think it's generally a really smart team. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I think per dollar, phenomenal value to race with them. I definitely see why they win races. They're really good on strategy. Mistakes are limited. The cars are simplified on purpose. And I don't want to underplay the amount of development that might have went into them. But they're set up to be simple, reliable, fast, consistent. And if you do that repeatedly, you're going to win races. And I think that's what we're seeing out of the Rockwell group. So it's a really good platform that's consistent. They do have really good drivers, which I'll get into, and it's a really well-run team. All around, I'm really impressed with everybody on that team. All right, let's talk about drivers. So my assumption, based on my experience, I've driven with a lot of different teams. I've also tried to get people to drive in my car. It is very difficult to find drivers that have money and drivers that are also fast. Now, if they're fast, you also want them to be clean and consistent. I mean, obviously, you can get the 17, 18-year-old spec Miata driver to go out there that'll blow the car up in a stint. But how do you find somebody that can put down a top-level time and then do that consistently, lap after lap, and also has the money to drive? It is very difficult to find. And frankly, I sold Rockwell Autosports development short in this area. I did not expect them to have this many good drivers. So I think in total, we had 10 drivers on the weekend, and I would say 7 of those drivers could pop in any team and compete for fastest driver on those teams. To fill out 3 different cars, I was really, really impressed. And the slowest drivers were also probably some of the fastest, slowest drivers of any of those teams as well. I don't know how they were able to get drivers that were that good. Now, I know the car is a little bit easier to drive than like the Miata or something like that, but these guys know how to wheel. And that's an area that I was really impressed with. I mean, some of these individuals had driver coaches. They're IMSA drivers. They've raced pro before. They really know how to turn a wheel. And I think that really goes in hand with the packages that have created the level of performance that we've seen out of these Boxster teams, is these drivers are legit. They're the real deal. The platforms are really solid, and the teams are run well. And I think that's why they win so many races and you see them in impound so much. All right, so what are the takeaways? What did I learn? So the assumptions of the Boxster definitely proved true. It is a fast car. Is it an overdog? Yeah, probably a little bit. They have a great team. They have phenomenal drivers. It's well prepped. That said, I don't see any way, even with an equivalent team and an equivalent driver lineup, that we can get this car to compete in an 8-hour race and in a 7-hour race if the yellows don't go exactly where we need them. There's no way this platform is going to be able to compete, and that isn't even speaking about all the front-wheel drive platforms that are out there that are really struggling to be competitive with the Boxster and these new platforms coming in, especially the D cars with a lot more power. So I think the series needs to do something. I don't know what that solution is, but maybe it's fuel. You know, we give this car more fuel so it can do 2 hours, or we fix the 2-hour stint situation. Now these cars can start being competitive. And I know there are a lot of Miatas out there. It would really suck if those aren't competitive in the series anymore and it starts moving towards a Boxster type series, or you're pushing into these other platforms and this huge market of all these Miatas, frankly, just goes away. If they're not going to be competitive, it might end up going the way of the Neon. I think there were a lot of people that brought in Neons. They ended up not being competitive. They gave up with the series, and you really don't see those anymore. Really, it's just BMWs, Miatas, and then now the Boxster is the new car to have, right? So overall, that's what I learned about the Boxster platform. Now, about the team, the Arrive and Drive experience, I think all of my expectations were met or exceeded. I think it's a phenomenal team. It's a great experience. It's substantially less expensive than me paying to run my own car. Now, I would say that I don't have other paying drivers for this. I foot the bill. And I do this, I race with some people from work. So I do have a lot more expensive than some of the other teams where that's not the case. That said, this Arrive and Drive experience is definitely worth the money. And it's not that expensive overall. Especially knowing that you're probably going to get your seat time, which has been a struggle with some of the other teams that I've driven with. You don't always get your seat time, and that can be really, really frustrating, especially when you're flying across the country. With Rockwell, it seems like just the consistency and the reliability is there. So does that mean I'm going to sell this platform and run with Rockwell full time? No. I like being a builder. I like pushing these cars to the limit. Frankly, I think this platform gets my adrenaline pumping a little bit more than the Boxster platform. I also like getting my hands a little bit dirty on the track, but I got to tell you, it was definitely relaxing running with Rockwell. I'm definitely going to run with them again. I'm going to book a lot more races with them, especially in between races with this car. I think it was a great experience, and I definitely want to keep that up, but I'm not going to give up this car. So in a nutshell, that's what I learned. I mean, it was a great experience. I'm glad I was able to do this. Now I have to get this motor in this car because we have a test day in about a week.